Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, for the first time in almost 9 years, Bradley Beal came off the bench, and for the first time in more than a month, we felt good about the Suns. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to kick off your winning Tuesday. Don't forget, also a game day Tuesday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Joining me, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credential media member. How are we feeling late on a Monday night after a big win? Ben Garcia.
Just fresh off my victory lap. It's why I was a couple of minutes late today. I just ran a couple of laps around the block. No, listen, man. This guy, lungs of steel, ready to go. My guy, Bradley Beal, everyone doubted him. Everyone pushed away the fact that I was ready to send him to Alcatraz, him and Nurkic, about a month ago. But listen, it was a little dubious in the first half. It was a little sketchy at first. But hey, man, this team might have found something. Now, I don't know to what extent, but it's just nice to talk about a win.
It is. We will talk about maybe to what extent they found something and what this lineup change kind of forecasts for this team. But let's break down a game, finally, in the way we actually want to do, talking about the basketball. That is what we get to do when they play real basketball. That looks like real basketball. And I'm going to start with the moment of the game, Ben, for me, which is the third quarter, just all of it. They basically start off with a 10-0 run into a 76ers timeout, 7.5 minutes. Then Beal gets cooking when he comes in the game midway through. They piled that up to a 19-3 run. Oubre basically tries his hardest to kind of keep the Sixers in it, including, I think, like 8 straight at one point for the Sixers. Cut it to 6. Beal gets that coast-to-coast layup at the end of the quarter. And then, because we can't get anything too good as Suns fans, Oubre has to get that buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter. But just when you look at, obviously, how much of a bugaboo or whatever you want to call it that third quarter has been for this team lately, the fact that Beal embraced that moment and got going, and obviously that's just when they took the lead that ultimately delivered them this win. That to me is kind of the defining thing I'll remember from this one.
I put out a brief clip basically saying, it is really admirable what Beal has done. Now obviously the guy is making $50 million a year. It's no sweat off his back, but he has been asked continuously to take less shots, shoot more threes, be a better defender than Booker. And there's no way. And I felt like you could kind of see it early that he was not thrilled with coming off the bench, and him coming out, and especially in that third quarter, basically saving the Suns. Because if they lose this game, the narrative is then, well, nothing works. You're not going to fix anything. And you put out a really good tweet of one of these Suns players got to start playing like an MVP caliber for this to matter at all. But it was a step in the right direction. And Beal today just grabbing that role, man. I was worried he might not do that for whatever reason, but listen, you don't get a soldier like that all the time with this team. So everything in the third quarter you had said, man, he lit it up, and Kelly Oubre did his best to keep them in it as well. But I think for me in this point, it was because you kind of took the whole third quarter, which I agree with.
Steal yours?
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's very similar. It's a third quarter, and I was kind of there as well. But I kind of want to move it to that Kelly Oubre 3 is what I thought might have a chance to swing this game to end it. And for me, the thought I had was, oh man, someone's got to make a big bucket here to keep this team at bay. And it was Bradley Beal weaving around the defense, running right into the teeth of the defense. Everyone's crashing in because he's killing it down low, getting easy layups, kicks it out to a corner three to Monte Morris. He drills it. It's 87-77. That's at the 8:34 point in the fourth quarter. It gives you more breathing room. It wasn't just him shooting the basketball, but that right there is an example of the defense was crashing down on him, kicking it to another bench guy, making it. And the Suns, I mean, you saw the statistics today, just outran the 76ers in bench points. And that's something we did not have last year.
Yeah, that run it was 19-3 at one point in the third. Obviously, the whole third quarter was 36-27, and Oubre did kind of even it up a little bit. But the energy of what they were doing in that period, it pretty much felt like it was like a quarter and a half long push that they had. Maybe our conversation on Monday's show about when they had a big run last kind of rubbed off on them from afar. Maybe some of the magic of our conversation drifted over to Philadelphia. I don't know, but it certainly felt like that they did not accept, okay, we're up. Maybe that Oubre three, they needed it, right? To kind of to keep it going rather than, okay, we're up, double digits, who cares? And maybe they fall complacent in the fourth. But yeah, that early fourth where Monte came in and Book came in, that energy kept up and Beal kept up and the lead just built to being double digits. And obviously that gave the Suns the cushion to win it. But yeah, you compare that to the first half where it was pretty lethargic. I think it says a lot that they kind of found it here tonight.
Well, and also cut down on the turnovers an okay amount tonight. 12 turnovers is nothing to be excited about, but in that first quarter, I think they only had 2, if I wasn't mistaken.
And
so
even 2 or 3 of those were at the very end when they were kind of playing, prevent offense in a way.
And I'm not so sure what to, because it's not fair for me to say that all the turnovers were on Bradley Beal. That doesn't make any sense, but it does kind of push into this narrative that the ball just moves a little bit better when there's not 3 guys on the court doing the exact same thing. So maybe it's that, maybe it's not. I thought Tyus Jones was fine tonight. I thought he could have been utilized a little bit better against the 76ers team. Probably should have been more of a jump shooter in this game, but I was surprised. Offensive, it was really frustrating to start this game because I even texted you. It was 16-3 or something to start the game. And I was like, well, this is a terrible start. But I felt like, and maybe it's just my own take and my own biases, I thought the offense did look a little better to start the game, but they just couldn't buy a basket, which makes this win something that you could potentially build on, which is so lightly put, especially with this team. But coming back, and you're right, it's the first run I've seen this Suns team have in 2 months? Legitimately, potentially 2 months. So
yep.
I was pretty defensively as well. I was pretty impressed with today's especially effort.
Bradley Beal was not the only player who got knocked out of the starting lineup, and the guy who ended up soaking up the majority of the minutes at the position where that other demoted player typically sits is exactly my lesson of the game, and it speaks to Ben's optimism about the offense. We'll get there next. First, today's show brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets straight to your account, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. I have a magical college basketball bet for you, as I always do. You don't even have to wait until this first round of the NFL playoffs, which is obviously one of the best weekends of the year for football fans. You can get that $5 bet won, get your $200 in bonus bets. You don't even have to win, but I'll give you a winning one. And then have some fun this weekend, and that is that Iowa State is hosting Utah. They're minus 4,000 on Tuesday night. Put a little money there. Get your $200 in bonus bets. Have some fun this weekend, all at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling. You have the newsletter this week. People can sign up for that at lockedondaily.com. You get Suns content, NBA content, fantasy advice. Keep up with the show. Support the show. Best of all, it's free. All you got to do is type in your email address at lockedondaily.com, and it comes straight to you just like that. All right. 109-99, Suns win. I teased my big lesson of this game, Ben, but I will let you have the floor first. What was yours?
Oh, good. I thought you were going to take mine as well. I think the easy lesson of this game is Bradley Beal off the bench can work, but I don't want to.
Bradley Beal off the bench can work. That's mine. I get it. Go ahead.
I think I'm ready to push and I didn't think Mason Plumlee was bad tonight. And I didn't think Jusuf Nurkic was actually bad tonight. He had one horrendous turnover that he literally just threw the ball to Paul George, which was just awful. But
and he bobbled another pass in the middle of that third quarter where it was like, if he ruins this run, I swear to you, I'm not even going to do the podcast tonight. But he didn't.
I think it's, or at least it's getting really close. And I understand the pushback on this because then you're starting two really young guys. I think it's pretty clear Oso Ighodaro is your best big man. And I say that not in a positive light because Oso still isn't a great option right now to be your starting big man, especially if the playoffs, which God, we're now talking playoffs again, were to start because that'd be rough. Plumlee and Jusuf Nurkic, man, they just got cement for feet. They don't move well defensively. I thought Plumlee was a little bit at fault for that inbound turnover where Kevin Durant kind of threw it to the other team because Plumlee has no idea how to cut correctly. But I think we learned today, especially with 21 minutes, I think that was higher than both Nurkic and Plumlee, and Plumlee today. He was just better. And honestly, man, it was that backdoor cut behind Yabusele where he dunked the ball. He cocked back and dunked it. That was some real confidence. And then he did it again later in the fourth quarter, not backdoor, but got in the lane and dunked it. That guy's starting to gain some confidence, and it's really something to monitor where he might force Bud's hand, just like Ryan Dunn did, to, hey, man, you might just have to start this guy. He's a little smaller, but he's better than Plumlee and Nurkic.
Exactly. Is Oso forcing his hand, or are actually the other two vets forcing his hand, right?
I think Plumlee wasn't bad tonight, but God, imagine him guarding Nikola Jokic.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, you could have told me that, well, actually, I think Plumlee guarding Jokic would go a lot better than guarding a 5-out team like he had to tonight, where he's running out to try to contest Yabusele threes and all that. But, yeah, this one was a little bit of an awkward matchup to make this change, whether Nurkic had been in there or Plumlee, because there's no Embiid in this game on the Philly side, and that's always going to benefit what I think Oso is good at. He had some switching possessions where he forced turnovers in this game, a couple, in that third quarter as well, and early fourth. But look, when I steal yours and I go first, you haven't teased anything because I'm just introducing the show. I teased that I was going to talk about Oso and you still took it. So I feel like you deserve the more flack for that. But
100%, because I feel like that's we're both trying to go next. We're not just trying to say cookie cutter because it can be easy, right? Bradley Beal's good off the bench. What a good lesson. Yeah. But like what I thought today, which was arguably more important because the front court is so bad, is, man, Oso Ighodaro is starting to really get some confidence. And man, I don't want to start a center, but you're right. I think it's more so Nurkic and Plumlee are forcing Bud's hand. So anyways.
Well, so we will spend plenty of time returning back to the Beal side of this, and I think looking ahead for what this really, really monumental lineup change means for the Suns. But to focus on this side of it for a little bit longer here, because it was my big lesson tonight too. The offense, that was the big thing. I went through a lot of the numbers this morning. When you look at Nurkic, the offense was the issue. Defensively, this team, believe it or not, is actually better with Nurkic on than Plumlee, and better than a lot of other options, just because I think he's 7 feet tall, he can protect the rim, he's big, and whatever else. So moving Nurk to the bench, that is, you hope, about the offense. Getting him off the court, your offense gets better. Plumlee, I agree, he's like athletic in a weird way, but also very uncoordinated in a weird way that doesn't seem to equal out. But what Oso does is that he is an actual threat, whether on the lob or some of the cuts like you mentioned, as well as just catching the ball, dribbling, putting it on the ground, and finishing, whether that's the floater or just a layup or a dunk. He had that up and under layup off the glass at one point. The dunks you mentioned, obviously we've seen the floater a bunch. But that Amare Stoudemire game where you catch it and you can actually score. You're not just predicated on catching it and dunking it right away or having to pass it out, which is often what Nurkic has to do. Oso is a real threat there. And so when you saw Philly selling out like every team does when it's Book or KD handling the ball on the perimeter and forcing the ball out of their hands with blitzes and double teams, when Book gives the ball to Nurk, that's often a turnover. The defense doesn't have to worry about scoring. We've seen teams not even bother to have a low man help defender in the way of Nurkic rolling to the basket because they don't even care. They're not even worried that he can actually catch, dribble, and score. So they're not even putting the man in that position to defend him. Whereas with Oso, they have to do that. So that obviously leaves the corner open more often. That means that maybe you're a little less aggressive with those blitzes when you do send them, which helps Booker and Durant. That is why you saw this offense, especially in the second half when he leaned in on Oso and Bud put Oso in the game even more. 67 points. That's not a fluke to me. And I 100% agree. You're picking the best of three decent to bad options, right? Like the center spot, there's no great option. It's an undersized rookie. I get that. But at least you can say we have a strength when he's on the court, and that is we can score the basketball at a really, really high level. I think they still need to address this position with the trade or do something else. But for now, I 100% agree. That is their best option. And the more minutes that they can just give to Oso, I know there will be worse matchups for him along the way. But, hey, it's better than hoping Plumlee in year 15 or whatever can suddenly become a different guy. We know what that is. Give the reps to Oso, lean into your strengths, and hope something good can come out of it.
You know, I thought there was going to be this fire potentially lit under both Nurkic and Beal, and you saw that with Beal tonight. But with Nurkic, he came out of this game firing. I thought he was able to cut to the basket, take advantage of what is a little bit smaller of a 76ers team right now, especially with Joel Embiid out. So Nurkic makes sense clearly defensively because he's 7 foot, and Oso Ighodaro is 6'9", and I agree with that. But you had just said it, right? He's got to catch this shouldn't be rocket science, but he's got to catch it, he's got to turn, and he's got to put the ball in the basket. He has not shown a consistency to do those three things at the same time often. So Oso, man, I would just ask you, when do you think you could make that change? Because are you really going to put in a lineup? You can put a lineup in with two rookies when you don't have to. I do think that there is listen, man, you got a young wing guy and you got a young center as two guys that teams are going to pick on, but I guess the option is you could just pick on Plumlee as well.
Yeah, I hear you on the rookies. To me, it's just who are the best players at this point. Yeah. You know, we're halfway through the season. But that brings us to another question on the Ryan Dunn side of it. We talked about Beal. We didn't talk so much about the guy who replaced him in the lineup. So I want to throw some questions your way, Ben, as we look forward beyond just this one game where it worked and it felt good and it was fun to watch. They're playing again on Tuesday night. They play again on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday after that. This schedule is lightening up in terms of talent, but it is not lightening up in terms of the fast and fierceness of these games. Can it work going forward? What does it need to look like? We'll get there next. First, basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with PrizePicks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, PrizePicks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Maybe you think that this thing for Beal is real. He's going to drop more than 25 points on Tuesday night. Or maybe you want to go, maybe you hate his brother's new rap song and you want to say that LaMelo Ball is going to go less on everything. PrizePicks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. I've been using PrizePicks all season, and it is both fun and addictive. It is fixed daily fantasy sports. I've told you that a million times if you're an everydayer. Using PrizePicks flex play option, even if one of your picks doesn't hit, you can still double your money. And once you do hit, they get you your money fast, sometimes in as few as 15 minutes. It's the best way to keep the game exciting, much better than going up against the sharps or the crazies in the daily fantasy stuff or the league stuff. It is just you versus your own information, your own brain, and those PrizePicks player projections. So now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. Get $50 instantly when you play $5 guaranteed at PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, Ben, let's close it out here. So the interesting thing about this lineup change, as we kind of saw it play out, it was Chris Haynes late Sunday night after we had already recorded. We said, okay, we'll see how it plays out on Monday night when they play. And in both the first and third quarters, Beal and Nurkic came back into the game with like 6+ minutes to go, like right away. And you were right back to seeing, at least in the first quarter, the usual starting lineup. Third quarter, Beal actually checked in about a moment or two before, and then Nurk came in at 5:19. But when you look at the final tally, Beal got 30 minutes. We talked about the center spot. Oso just outplayed Nurkic, so he only got 14. That is on the high end to me of how much you can really play Beal if he's coming off the bench. Like, it's really hard to play him more than that. How did you feel about like what it actually looked like for Beal in terms of the flow he could get into, the lineups he was playing in, just kind of all of it in this first game, like I said at the top of the show, since 2016, where the dude came off the bench?
I think it was kind of play it by ear. And, you know, I'd mentioned before to start this game, I thought they were getting good shots off, but none of them were falling. I hated the fact that it felt like Bradley Beal and Jusuf Nurkic were in the game like right away. Absolutely, those two guys, along with Grayson Allen, are going to be some of those first few guys off the bench. But if it's the problem that we've had with the Suns, if they would have lost this game, this is what I would have went to. But they kind of cleaned it up later in the game, and a lot of that was Beal forced his hand. He had to play more because he had the hot hand. But the problem with this Suns team is we've been trying to find an identity all year long. And for the Suns, it was, we cannot figure out what we are. And so you're going to go ahead and say, all right, we're going to start all three guys. And then that didn't work out. And then you go ahead and bring Beal off the bench, but you weren't completely committing to it. It was, let's see how this works out, and then we'll throw Beal into the mix. And it just felt like there was not enough time for these guys to really gel until Beal again forced his hand in the third quarter. I did not like, though, where it wasn't just at that point. I should have wrote this down, but I didn't. But there was a few times in this game where it was the old starting five back in the lineup together. And maybe that's mismatching. Maybe that's Bud liking what he saw. But those five guys on the court do not work together. Yeah, and they should never be on the court at the same time.
I didn't like it, right? It's like,
yeah, that shouldn't happen.
Does that lineup work or no? Because even if you could make the case to me that you want to get those guys minutes, like in a vacuum, sure, there's still some of your better players. Although Nurkic, I think we can debate that. In the second half, kind of proved that he might not actually even be that. But yeah, like you said, it was more so the reason this lineup change happened to me more than anything else is just that group wasn't working. So then to put it right back on the court, it doesn't make any sense. I think playing it by ear is exactly the way to put it, because Beal only took 5 total shots in the first half. He enforced what happened the rest of the game, as did Oso, to keep Nurk off of the court, not close the game. And in the fourth quarter in particular, I thought it was fascinating the kind of the rotation of everything, because we mentioned Beal kind of kept that third quarter energy going at the beginning of the fourth. He comes out for KD at the 6-minute and 30-second mark. He only sat for 1 minute and 6 seconds. He almost played the whole fourth quarter despite being benched. So that to me is a signal that while that first quarter rotation did kind of feel like Bud being like, oh, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, get back in the game, the fourth quarter was like, you've earned this. And that, I think, when Bud says pregame, like, we're going to feel this out, nothing's permanent, the first quarter made me worry about that, because it felt like you're just going to gift these guys another opportunity. The fourth quarter made me believe him because I'm like, okay, you're reading this and you're trusting what's working, and that I'm okay with.
Yes, and just kind of going further with that, it just felt like it almost felt like they told Beal, God, quit worrying about anything else besides scoring the basketball, and the rest will come. And tonight he had 25 points and he had the 5 assists. He was able to drive to the basket and dish it out to shooters, and that's what this team has been missing all year long. And it kind of goes with that Nurkic thing that you had mentioned a second ago. Man, he just doesn't fit here. He can't hit an open three. And that's why when you had said right away, like they're bringing these guys in 4 or 5 minutes into the first quarter, I was worried that he was going to come out with Bradley Beal starting in the third quarter and Jusuf Nurkic like just completely abandoning the game plan.
Just bail. Yeah.
I was really surprised though when Beal came out at the 6-minute mark. I did worry a little bit. I was like, oh my goodness, is he going to keep? Because he pulled him out kind of late. I was like, is he going to pull this guy out until 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter? How is that going to go over? But you were right. He earned that. He sat there for 30 seconds and got back up and went back into the game. But that was the one thing where I was like, oh man, is that what this is going to look like? Is he going to come out in 4 minutes into the game? But so that stuck out to me as well.
With that all in mind, my question for you is, put on, he wears his hats forward. You have it on backward. I don't know. He has a little bit longer hair. It's gray, not brown like yours.
My hair's short.
What do you say if you're Mike Budenholzer to Beal post game? Because you had to have a difficult conversation, right? You had to do what we've all kind of been the elephant in the room. You send him to the bench, and then it works. Do you kind of, pat him on the back and go super positive and almost like drill it in like, hey, it worked, or do you just leave it unaddressed and say, we had our difficult conversation, let's just ride this while it works? Like, how do you approach the communication and kind of leadership side of this if you're a head coach in this situation? What do you think that's looking like right now?
So I'm a head-on guy. So maybe Bud isn't that type of person. I feel like if you're a head coach, then whatever. But like if you and I ever have problems, I will immediately be like, Brendon, like, what is this? And I'm sure potentially you're kind of the same way. But if I'm Bud, I'm saying like, hey man, if I don't know how that conversation was, I'm assuming it was pretty difficult and pretty frustrating if you're Bradley Beal. But I'm saying, hey, listen, no one is right. There's no need to point into the look, I was right thing. I think that it comes off a little snarky for the head coach, but I think
and we don't even know if it was just a Bud decision, right? Like that's kind of the other thing. So
I would assume it was.
If he said it was right.
I would be floored. I think if anyone else, especially Bradley Beal, said bench me. Stuck out in that
I'll
Chris
get to
Haynes,
it in a second. You finish your thing.
Well, what stuck out in that Chris Haynes report is he said, which was not shocking at all, which was there's players frustrated in that locker room about the role. Like, yeah, dude, I didn't need that report. I could have told you that. Mm-hmm. Bud could have said, listen, Bud says something like this. This is your role. This is how you fit. Starting games is nothing but a facade for your toxic masculinity or whatever it is. If you're an NBA player, your ego, it's all it is, just a facade for your ego. This is what you need to do. You're still going to close games for us. Just focus on scoring the basketball. That's what you're good at. Go back to being what you said before in the press conferences early in the year. Like, I just want to get back to what I was doing before, Jimmy Butler style, loving basketball. So he's found his role. I'm just curious how far it can go because if this team goes on a 3-game losing streak and Beal's on the bench, like, then everything's out the window.
Yeah, I think it could flip. And the reason I asked it right after the conversation we were just having is I think that makes it easier, right? Because Bud can say, hey, in that fourth quarter, I trusted you. Keep it up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And kind of turn it into a positive where it's not a positive of like, oh, you only did this because we made this move, but more so a positive of like, trust me to feel this out and keep putting you in a position to succeed, even if this is uncomfortable for you. What I was alluding to with I don't know if this was a Bud decision. One, I just think it's such a big thing that obviously you would expect that Jones, Bartlestein, Ishbia, like they're involved in knowing that this is happening to whatever extent that they, affected the decision-making. I don't know. But I don't think it's even a conspiracy theory to say that this if it does not work at any point, and I'm not rooting for that, but a lot of the reaction from people outside of Phoenix that I saw was like, oh, they're playing their chess piece to get him to accept his no trade clause. They're telling him, we're devaluing you, so whatever you think this is, get ready to learn Detroit, buddy, because this, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like, that's the subliminal message that I think it could send. And now I don't know what the truth is, but I think that that's kind of what I'm getting at when
Where do you stand on that? Where do you stand on that? Because I was going to loft that question up to you too. Yeah. Are you on this? Are you on? I think it's nonsense, but where are you at?
Well, I don't think it has to be so like, mischievous to be that way. Like I think that what I would buy is that it is one last grasp to try the kind of the break glass in case of emergency thing that we all knew was sitting there. Like I called it an elephant in the room a minute ago. And if this does not work, we gotta shake it up. And so whether you think of it as like some kind of big dare, or you just look at it as like, that's just the reality, which it is, that if this doesn't work, it's over. I don't know what side of it whatever is the reality, but that I think they're both kind of the same thing. And I think that that's definitely what's going on.
I saw a good amount of people, media, fans reacting to or reporting on that this is the Suns' way to get him to just literally just shoo him out of here. There is no chance Bradley Beal is accepting an offer to the Detroit Pistons or wherever it is, anywhere that wasn't on the Gambo list that we saw today, the Heat, Nuggets, or Lakers, whatever it was, right? There's no way he's accepting a trade because he got moved to the bench. Like these are people's livelihoods. He's not up and moving his entire family to Detroit and putting his kids in a different school because he doesn't like coming off the bench. Like I thought that was nonsense. I do think there's a chance it was obviously done to light a fire under Bradley Beal. But you're right. This is break glass in case of emergency. This is it. We went through plan B, A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z. This is it. This is Z. So we'll see how it goes.
Last question that I had was, Royce O'Neal is the only player on the injury report right now.
Well, and Amanda Flugard.
Yeah. Shout out Sophie Cunningham. I thought she did actually a pretty good job for being an active player doing sideline reporting. That's not exactly like a familiar skill set. So
I love Sophie Cunningham. I thought her pregame interview with Grayson Allen, she was definitely a little nervous.
Oh, I missed that one. I sat down.
I was going to text you when I saw that. So I didn't know Amanda Flugard was, you and I love this media stuff, but I didn't know Amanda Flugard was injured, was sick. And I was going to text you. I was like, when did Sophie Cunningham start doing the pregame interviews with these players in the tunnels? And then I saw she was sick. So I thought she did a mostly good job, but she did look nervous.
Yeah. So Royce is out. When he comes back, do you keep starting Dunn, or does Royce get that spot?
You got to start.
We assume
Dunn,
Beal stays on the bench.
You're starting Dunn. Leave Royce on the bench. You got to start Dunn. This guy defensively, he's earned it. He adds a little bit more youth, and he is just freaking everywhere. It's one of the things where, like, I'm kind of potentially in on starting Oso because both those guys, him, Okogie, and Oso Ighodaro, deserve more minutes just because they're diving for every loose ball. They're getting every rebound, and injecting that into a lineup that with Booker and Durant sometimes look a little lackadaisical. It is, I need that guy in there. I need that injection of youth. So yeah, no, I'm starting Dunn. You?
I agree. I just wanted to bring it up more as a rhetorical question because I think most people would agree, but I wanted to highlight something specific about it, which is that with Beal out, they don't have that point of attack defender anymore because that's the defensive role that Beal was getting. And so you kind of saw that tonight. Dunn guarded PG kind of out of the gates, but what that meant was because there's no Beal now, and there's really only one good point of attack defender on this in any Suns lineup at any given time, basically. Tyrese Maxey was being guarded by Tyus a lot of the time, and Booker, whatever. Like, you have to start Dunn because Royce is not that good at that role, which is kind of what we saw down the stretch of last season when Royce is having to guard like Anthony Edwards and Grayson's trying to guard Anthony Edwards and whatever in the playoffs. So Dunn is even more like integral on this team than even just like, oh, he brings energy and this and that. It's like that specific thing. Imagine if Royce is out there and you go up against a team like Philly where they have PG and I know they didn't play very well tonight, but like PG and Maxey or whatever team you want to throw out there.
Yeah.
That
Mavericks
gets
is one of
pretty
them.
dicey. So
Luka, Kyrie,
that's
guys
definitely
like that.
Exactly. All right, that'll wrap us up. Hit follow, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll have another recap episode on Tuesday night after Suns versus Hornets. Another game on Thursday. Content for you Monday through Friday on this feed. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter as well, and we will catch you tomorrow.